We begin with this. A woman accusing Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of assaulting her in high school has to decide by tomorrow morning if she will testify before a Senate committee. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley says Christine Blasey Ford can tell her story in public or she can tell it in private. He also says Judiciary Committee aides would travel to interview her.
Her lawyer said last night that Ford believes a full, nonpartisan investigation of this matter is needed, and she's willing to cooperate. But the lawyer said the committee's stated plan to move forward with a hearing that has only 2 witnesses is not a fair or good faith investigation.
President Trump could order the FBI to launch an investigation, but he says the Senate should handle it. The president said yesterday he wants to hear from Ford.
Joining us now is CBS News senior national security analyst Fran Townsend. She was Homeland Security and counterterrorism advisor to President George W. Bush and worked alongside Kavanaugh. Fran, good morning. So what role should the FBI play in this?
You know, the FBI, even if you were to reopen the background investigation, under no circumstances will they take a view on credibility. It's actually part of the regulations, the Justice Department regulations. That's not their job. So they would interview Dr. Ford, they would interview Kavanaugh, they would probably try to interview Mark Judge, the third person that Dr. Ford says was present. But in the end, this is going to come down because it's almost 36 years old, the allegation. It's going to come down to credibility. And so in the end, the Judiciary Committee, and if the hearing is public, the American people are going to be the judges of this. You know, so I'm not sure what gets added to it by having the FBI do these interviews in advance.
But typically, Fran, how long does an investigation like that take?
Oh, this is not going to look. If you did order an investigation, we shouldn't worry about a delay, right? You have the 3 interviews. You may have 2 or 3 others if there is some allegation that others might have some memory of it. But there's a half dozen interviews to be done. Each will have a 302. That's the FBI written report behind it. This is a couple of days. This is not weeks or months.
Well, as a former federal prosecutor, would you put a witness on the stand without some type of investigation?
You know, Gayle, if you were talking about a criminal trial, my view might be different, right? Where I'd want to know in advance because I would have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses. But I'd take you back to the Anita Hill example, right? Mm-hmm. That's an example where President George H.W. Bush did reopen the investigation based on her allegations. And look at how those 302s were used. They were used, it was a brutal, brutal cross-examination of her in public. I'm not sure that's something, that's a model we'd really want to follow.
When you say 302s, what is that? You said how those 302s were used.
Sorry, when the FBI does an interview, they write a report, and it's called the number of the form they fill out. Mm-hmm. It's called a 302. Mm-hmm. That's what would then be handed over to the Judiciary Committee if the FBI did it, and they would have that as a basis upon which to question her.
So are you saying an FBI investigation might actually not even be helpful to her at this point?
That's exactly right. Look, and I don't think it's helpful. You know, she through her lawyer has asked for this FBI investigation, and I think that makes her look political. Look, this is very difficult. She's come under incredible scrutiny and criticism. Look, I feel for her. It's taken real courage for her to step up here. But I think she ought to tell her story. She's got a story to tell. And whether that's publicly or privately, she ought to be given the opportunity to tell that story. And she ought to want to avoid, as much as possible, the politics of this.
Well, that's why she wants to do it to an FBI agent and not Senate investigators, Fran.
Well, that's right. But in the end, Norah, this is going to be about her telling her story. And to the extent she's telling it to anybody else, whether those are Senate investigators or the FBI, she's her own best advocate here. If she can get the opportunity to tell her story and get it out there, then it's up to Kavanaugh to be able to refute that.
All right.
Fran Townsend, thank you very much, Fran.